Today on the grill, we're making a backyard favorite with a little bit of a twist. This is cherry wood smoked deviled eggs. Thanks for tuning in. Deviled eggs are a childhood favorite of mine, as I'm sure they may be of yours too. It harkens back to, a long time ago where you'd have family picnics and everyone would bring sides. And this was something that everyone always had, and there's a million different ways to make it, but I'm going to show you mine that is absolutely over the top. We're going to be smoking them today over cherry wood on the Hastings behind me at 250 degrees. Now, I've hard boiled a dozen eggs. We've gone ahead and split them and separated the yolks and the whites. We're going to smoke them separately because we want to make sure we get a good smoke saturation all the way in them. I've gone ahead and sprayed them down with a spray can of oil just to have some kind of wet surface for that smoke to stick to. No seasoning or anything at this point. We're going to put them directly on the grill. Then we'll mix up all the ingredients that we're going to mix the yolks with to go ahead and fill them. All right, now that all that's on the smoker, we're gonna go ahead and make up the mix that we're gonna mix the yolks with. So when we go ahead and fill these things, let's get all that pop of flavor that really makes the deviled eggs stand out. There's a couple things here we add that a lot of people don't. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with a 1/4 cup of mayo. Only use Duke's mayo if you can get it. If you can't get it, I'm sorry, Duke's mayo is the way to go. You're gonna do a 1/4 cup of Duke's mayo, and I'm putting in about 1.5 tablespoons of softened butter. Now, the better the butter you have, the better the whole recipe turns out. So I'm using Kerrygold butter today, but we're talking about normally around 1 tablespoon. You can go to 1.5 tablespoons of softened butter. We're gonna do 4 teaspoons of regular yellow mustard. And we're gonna go ahead and do 2 teaspoons of some pickle juice. Now, you can throw diced pickles in or whatever you want. This is actually pickles and jalapenos, so it's gonna have a little bit of a kick to it. But I had 2 teaspoons of that pickle juice in there to give it that kick. Now, I'm not a big fan of sweet deviled eggs. I'm more of a fan of salt, peppery, savory deviled eggs. So I'm not gonna go ahead and throw sugar in it, but if you wanted to throw sugar, you could toss a teaspoon of sugar into it. I put 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. That's all gonna go, this dry mix is all gonna go in the liquid mix right here. We're gonna whip this liquid mix up. Now, when those yolks are done smoking, we're gonna go ahead and drop them in here, break them all up, mix the whole thing up, get a good congeal on it. We wanna get everything cooled down in the refrigerator so you don't do any of this stuff while it's hot. Those eggs have to come off and rest until they're room temperature, and then we'll start mixing everything up together. All right, these cherry wood smoked deviled eggs have been sitting in the refrigerator for about half an hour. They're ready to transfer, mix in with our wet ingredients, and go ahead and start building these things out. So here's what we're gonna do. We have all the wet ingredients that we've already mixed up in here. We're just gonna go ahead and take the yolks out. Gonna put them in. Stir those up in a minute. And take the whites. Dump the whites out here because we're gonna be filling those in a second. So we got a couple options we can do here. What I normally like to do is put a lid on here, shake it up real good. We can always come back with a spoon after, but it does a really good job of doing the initial breakup of the yolks. We just come back in, any yolks that didn't break up, we'll go ahead and smash them around. All right, all those yolks are broken up. We're getting ready to put them in the eggs. Now, I will say, if you prefer the filling of your deviled egg to be a little bit thicker, you can always add extra yolks. So maybe hard-boiled 1 dozen or 2 dozen eggs, and instead of putting 1 dozen or 2 dozen whites in there, half the whites and do double the yolks. It'll make it a lot thicker. That yolk fortifies the blend a lot. Now, what we do is we go ahead, spoon this into a bag. Here's all the air out of the bag. We're gonna go ahead and get all that mixed down in the bottom corner and cut the end off the bag. And we're filling. If you notice that your bag's starting to stop up a little bit, you might not have cut a big enough hole, or you may not have broken up your yolks enough. We may have a little bit of both going on here. But that is the beauty of doing this on live video. Now, the final trick, which every true Southerner knows, you can top it with some paprika, make it nice and pretty. Now, because these are smoked eggs, we're using smoked paprika. One thing I like to do too, if you really have it on hand, is do some crumbled bacon on top. That's always a nice little selling point on these. People eat more of them when there's bacon on it. That's just science. Hope you guys enjoy having these at your next backyard party. Yeah, you'll eat a few of those. Those are gonna be good. See you guys next time. Subscribe up here on YouTube. Follow us on social media. Thanks for being the best part of Hasty Bake. Have a great week, guys.